Welcome everybody to regular meeting of the board.
6:34 sound
Yep,
okay?
that's good. Roll call.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay, Archer? Yes.
And that's,
Carpenter?
yes.
McElroy? Yes. Stottsberry?
Yes.
And McKee?
Yes. Administrative reports, Mr. Leffingwell?
Okay, we have several things. The order is not indicated by the list there, but tomorrow is a day we've been waiting on for quite a while, actually. A couple of years that we've been discussing the potential for STEM designation for both of our buildings in our district and the significance of it. So the STEM Learning Network and the STEM Committee will be meeting tomorrow, and I wanted Philip to come and share a few things about that. And while he's doing that, I also want to take this opportunity to say, without a lot of hard work of a lot of people, but none greater than the effort that Philip's put forth in leadership and innovation and technology, would this even be possible? So without further ado, Philip, I'll just turn it over to you.
Okay. Yeah, we received word Tuesday's end that this meeting was actually tomorrow. So it's all virtual now. It was normally in person. And like Dane was saying, it's the joint venture of the Ohio Department of Education, ODE, the STEM Learning Network, and STEM Committee. So it starts at 10 o'clock tomorrow, and they start making their votes on the school districts or schools that become STEM designated. And so we submitted our applications for both the K-8 building and for the 9-12 building. So they went in a separate entity. And those applications were reviewed. We had on-site visit before COVID came along. They reviewed us, and then it kind of went silent for a while. Here, hold on. But that was natural, and they said it would take a while anyway, but with COVID, it kind of slowed some things out. So when they're looking at our application and review, they give it 4 ratings. 4 ratings you can receive. The first is initial, which means you're kind of in that exploratory, you're getting your feet into the water, dipping your toes into STEM. And the next one is approaching, which means that you're moving along, but you're not quite there yet. You're not ready to become STEM designated. Accomplishing means you are there. You're doing everything in their guidelines that they set forth in that STEM designation. And then model is the perfection. Typically, you see schools like this that have been doing it for a number of years after they've been accomplishing for a while. Both of our buildings hit accomplishing. The first 2 don't even get recommendation for STEM designation. The second 2 do get recommendations into the Ohio STEM Learning Network. So we're really confident that we will be voted in. Of course, there's always things that can happen. And again, it happens at 10 and 12 tomorrow. So we're having a view meeting in here, and we're going to be setting our lighting standards, watching this vote come through. So we're excited about that. And then later on, there will be a second meeting for celebrations and banner presentations. And this is a huge, like Daniel said, this is a huge accomplishment. And we spoke before in different meetings on why we wanted to do this. One, it proves that we're on the right track and that we're doing everything we can for our students to be in those future-ready careers. So it's proving to us, ourselves, proving to the community, our teachers, staff, parents, students, everybody involved, all these shareholders, that we have proof for ODE and the Ohio STEM Learning Network. It also allows for a lot of growth. We have schools visit us, sharing out ideas. We become part of the Ohio STEM Learning Network. There's grant opportunities built into that system. There's money set aside in the budget at the state level for the Ohio STEM Learning Network. So there's a lot of opportunities there as well. And like I said, this is a big accomplishment for any school. But I think it's a an amazing accomplishment for us because of several reasons. I'm going to show you a map here in a little bit. When you look at this map of Ohio that has the current schools that are STEM designated, you're going to notice that they're in metro areas. And they're bigger schools. You know, we went to Burnsburg STEM Academy. It was a gigantic school. There was 1,200 students in that building. That was just a high school. It wasn't, K-12, it was 9, 12, 1,200 students. So we're small. That's one thing that there's not a lot of schools our size that are in the STEM learning network. We're rural. Again, it's not metro. We're rural. We're going in. Both of our buildings were set as accomplishing, so it's K-8 and the 9-12. So there's a lot of schools that are 9-12 only, and they don't push them down to the other kids. But we see that the natural progression that you start them out when they're young, and by the time they become 12th graders, they're pros at it. We teach coding and robotics, very young ages. Some of these are naturals, instead of trying to force them in the last 4 years. We're public, that's another accomplishment. A lot of these schools are private academies. We went to one, Mr. Huck and I went to one called Hawken up near Cleveland this last summer. It was a private school. I believe they said it was, I think, $16,000 a year, K-12. So imagine sending your student kindergarten through 12th grade at the cost of $16,000 a year. And they were not doing anything more than we are. Not a single thing. So we're public. And we're also what's considered a conversion school, which means we're a typical K-12 school district, public school district, but we're converting into a STEM school district. Many of these schools that are in the Ohio School or Ohio STEM Learning Network started out as STEM schools. They were alternative schools. So they were founded and created from the start as a STEM school. And they're selective in their enrollment. It might be a lottery system. It might be, we accept certain GPAs. We bring everybody here, or all of our students. So those are, again, feathers in the cap because of all those reasons. I'm gonna stop past a second. Screen. Hard to see on that. You'll notice anything east of Columbus, nothing. Anything south of Akron Canyon, there's 0 STEM schools in this entire region. Not just southeastern Ohio, you're talking central up to almost northeast Ohio and all the way down to where Ohio hits the deep down towards Huntington. So we're going to be a beacon in the darkness. You see that green light strobing in the night that Mr. Venus likes to push out. That we are that beacon of hope. So this is exciting. It's going to be an accomplishment. We're going to push this out. This needs to be advertised. This is a big, big deal.
What's the difference between blue and red?
One of them is from 2019. They just have it split. Some of them are the 2019 people that came in from 2019. So you'll see there's only 56. And then I think there was maybe a 19 or 20 in 2019. So there's not that many. Chad's old school's on there, Grand Local. They got a little pin in there as well. So it's a lot of great opportunities for our students, for our community. Put it out there. We're here and proved it.
I mean, it's fantastic. So if you think about the evolution of what our staff has accomplished, 2013, I remind you, had straight F's on our report card. Our growth areas, every marker was F. And now we're going to be, if granted this, there's actually fewer than a handful of districts that are K-12 designated. So that's a huge turnaround in a fairly short period of time. But the focus is right. And, the one frustration in our area is you can't convince other local districts the importance of this. If this was more comprehensive, more districts, then we're more attractive to future employers. because the quality of our trained workforce would be available for them to hire. So to do this alone, we're not enough. So I thought of this before I came over today, because you guys all have your jobs. This week alone, Monday through Thursday, I've been on a phone call, Zoom or something, with over 450 different districts. There's 850 in the state. I didn't talk to anybody within 75 miles. No one within 75 miles. Because that's what, they don't want to work that way. They're engaged in kind of taking care of just getting through the day. I think this speaks to vision. It gives our kids, a background for future employment. And not just some kids, all kids. That's why equity is so important. We don't want to just prepare some of our kids for these careers. We want to prepare all of our kids for those careers. And I think the staff's made a great effort. I thought letting Philip kind of lay this out was really a nice segue into Matt and Eric talking about kind of the future development of the farm. You do have the option of applying for STEM or STEAM. Okay, we really think that we're STEAM, but we weren't ready for this application. Because the agriculture, our A in STEAM typically is arts. Ours is art, but it's also big time in agriculture, which I think is unique, but we weren't there yet. So we wanted to jump in here, but obviously that A is really critical. And our M, if you remember, also is not just math, but it's medical and manufacturing. So we really feel like we have some unique things. We have a lot of things that people can gain from. There's also not money, but there's funding opportunities available to STEM schools, not available to other schools throughout. And that might really tie into, where we're going with the farm and what support might be out there for some of our future projects. So, there is a method to the madness. It all kinds of ties together. These things happen years in advance. And again, Phil, thank you for your leadership and drive and support. With that, I'll turn it over to Matt and Eric to talk a little bit about where we are at the farm, what's maybe going to happen as soon as this summer, and
Hey, Dave, quick question.
You kind of got an finale.
But that, how did you get this team? What is the process to, you have to go through the entire process again, Philip, to become STEAM from STEM?
We would go through the application process again, but we could use our previous application and just add in the arts. That's what they were saying, that's what the state CTA has.
Yeah.
And to get that, you really need to have a close alignment with the higher education.
museum.
And the museum. And so we're looking for that right partner that could give us that, with agriculture, we got the research farm and other places, but the A, for the actual application, they want it to be arts. For us internally, we also agriculture.
It'd just be an easier jump to make after here.
Yeah.
I thought our team did a really nice job of not saying how bad we needed them. We talked about why and how bad they needed us.
Good.
And I think that resonated pretty well. I think the other of the many great things, I think our business and industry partnerships in our business advisory council was huge.
So you don't have to go through the whole process again, you can just,
Well,
it's
just, we
good.
could be adding on.
Add.
And I like Dan saying, by us going this direction, we may force the hand of other districts to step up,
Oh, nice.
and provide for their students. They can't provide for people outside, over 100 miles away. We just can't. So let's set the challenge out there.
Thanks.
Thank you, Philip.
Guys, as well, we're just talking with Kevin, Mr. Van Fleet has a nice big finale, I think. I just got a few little things. We met over at the school farm 2 weeks ago maybe, and talked with the coal company. At that point, we had a couple more members there, and we just were trying to get the ball rolling. Said, what do you guys really need to go? And of course, the building was one big topic, and then a couple of pieces of equipment. The first thing we looked at was the tractor. Mr. Van Fleet's going to talk about the building. And Eric also has a quote coming from Lashley's on a Kubota tractor. I wanted to talk to Bakers. But the concept was we're going to buy a piece of equipment that makes sense to buy it as local as we can. L&H doesn't sell tractors. to sell equipment. Last, this is really the only dealership in Middle County that we can buy a tractor from. We're kind of limited to a brand-specific Kubota. So Baker's is in Louisville, not very far. A lot of us deal with those people, we do. So they're as local as we can get for a New Holland or Ford tractor. So we got a couple of quotes on a 75 horse tractor. A lighter duty one, it's called the Workmaster. It's a 4-wheel drive cab loader, around $43,000. And then that's a 75 horse tractor. And then a higher, more heavier made tractor of the same horsepower with a 4-wheel drive cab loader. And it's called Power Star versus a Workmaster of around $47,000. And then we move up to a 100 horse tractor. It's called a Power Star 4-wheel drive cab loader of $58,000. As we kind of talked, this is kind of the beginning of our school farm necessity that we have to have as far as a piece of equipment goes. We also talked about a bush hog for that keep up and maintenance to keep the farm. And I don't know, I mean, I don't want to ramble too much, but when you have a 100-some acre farm, there's a lot of upkeep to it. We're going to try to do some hay this year, incorporate some students that we can do that with some sharing. Probably use maybe my equipment or some of the kids' equipment if we can do that and try to get that taken care of. But there's going to be a lot of places that need, the appearance-wise, it doesn't take long to grow up. So the bush hog was another necessity. Talked at LNH, our local place that we can buy a bush hog from, and the recommendation. Talked for a long time with Bob Larry, and he is the owner, one of the owners of LNH, and he's actually the individual that has leased this property for 45 years, and he's been on it, ran it. He knows what the piece, of ground is about, and he recommended a 12-foot flex, what we call a batwing type bush hog. Not that we have to get that, that was just one of his recommendations. It's a nice piece of equipment. They've got it priced, and there's two different ones made by the same company. One's called a Rhino, one's called a Bush Hog, 12-foot batwing of around 11.9 on both of those. They did say that coming up at June 1st, there's an opportunity to maybe get as much as a 50% government type discount. So they're going to get back with us on that. The other one we looked at was a 10-foot. It's a rigid deck, meaning that it's flat, it doesn't flex, around $9,700. And I know Constance and Ed were at the meeting we had, and we were having a discussion. And I'm going to throw this out here, not that we have to do this. I own a New Holland tractor. It's a 2009. It's a 95 horse tractor. And if I compare it to some of the older model tractors, it, in my opinion, is not as of the same quality. They're not as heavily made. I've already put a clutch and several repairs on that tractor. And again, I know Kevin was just talking, he said, we're probably not going to use that one as much on the school farm, but we're going to use it, and we want it to be a reliable unit. Mr. Van Fleet and I have a pretty good working knowledge of the older type tractors. And if something went wrong with one of those, we'd probably pull it into our ag facility or shop and probably diagnose it and work on it and fix it. And the newer tractor hopefully won't break down, but we're looking several years down the road. There's another option besides buying a brand new tractor, is buying a very nice older model tractor that, in my opinion, might be of better quality. Just throwing that out there. That's for you guys, I think, to decide. We're just giving you guys options at this point. Is that right?
What do you see with Matt? What do you see with the tractor and bush hog that we have? Well, it's not too long. What's the plans for that? I know we had talked about it before. Do you see that as being a very good fit, or is that just something that?
The tractor bush hog?
Yeah.
I feel like I think we speak for, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think it's a necessity that when we're starting the school.
You're talking about guys, the one we already have.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I don't know what we got.
What is that, Eric?
Too little.
I don't know much about it. I think it's probably too little to do a lot of the things we're talking about.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it couldn't be handy for some jobs on the farm.
Yes.
But as far as bush hogging the property, I think that tractor is a little bit undersized.
Yeah. And is it something that we could use as a trade-in possibly, or?
Well, and I guess I don't know, what's the size of the tractor?
I believe it's 56 horse.
Is that what it was, Kevin? I couldn't remember. It ain't that old, though.
I guess I don't know, as I would just trade in right off the bat.
That was bought more from the ground than here,
Yeah.
not rather the farm.
And then try to hit that over there where it wasn't really.
With what we're trying to do, I think, is set up the bottom background for some hay equipment. If we're gonna maybe have a round baler, maybe we're gonna plant corn. Those are all things we're envisioning happening. And if we buy a smaller tractor, trying to use a smaller equipment, if we're not gonna have that capability. So I think we're sitting there trying to, like Kevin just said, hey, we're looking at these 75 horse tractors. He's like, you know, we probably need to maybe look at the 100 horse tractor, because if we buy something too small now, down the road, we spend a lot of money and we can't.
Well, your 100 horse is just your motors, not your.
Yes, and that's an important part. We talked about that a long time down at NLSD. When we say it's a 100 horse tractor, is it really a 100 horse tractor? No, it's the engine 100 horsepower, but we're really looking at what the PTO brings us. So, you know, we're gonna lose sometimes as much as 10 horsepower. So if we're saying it's a 100 horse tractor, really if the PTO will run it around later piece of equipment, it's really only maybe a 90 or different. I know Kubotas are different, or New Hollands are different. So when we start looking at those types of tractors, it's gonna be important to maybe start considering what we wanna look at as far as attachments that we might be running with that piece of equipment. Just ideas, something we were throwing around. We thought tractor in the building was gonna be something that we don't want to have to even start the process.
I guess on my bush, on your bush hog that you got priced, I would rather go with a back.
That's because
I have a 10-foot and I want to replace it.
I do too, same thing. I got a 10 and a 12 foot that are not bat wings, they're straight units.
I want to go over the slips or.
That's exactly what Bob said. And of course, he's one of the owners of LH Sales Equipment, but knows the property very well. He said that's what he would recommend, just because of the longevity of keeping it and running and using it every day or every year.
Speaking of longevity, what's approximately the useful life on a 100?
It is well taken care of and maintenance.
I got 1948.
It is. And then honestly, when I say this, I have a 1972 6600 that we had bought from LH, and it was painted, the engine had went through, they had rebuilt it, transmission and everything. It was just like a brand new tractor when I got it. And I think we had about $13,000 on it. And it was a 2-wheel drive without a cab, but it was probably the most reliable, dependable, best running tractor that I've owned. I really liked it, I was very partial to it, but it's a 1972 model versus, and we're looking at maybe a 2020 model. And when we start talking about those types of tractors, we can run them and run them and run them. In 1948, you're looking at 50, 60, 70 years on the longevity. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm in 2009 that I've had for 11 years, and it's got 4,700 hours on it. And there's no chance that tractor would be what he's talking about. But I mean, that's a long time. I mean, Eric's going to talk about leasing a tractor, and that's a possibility maybe for the first year with that. So that's a personal opinion, and I know that we're probably not going to run this piece of equipment like maybe the hours as we do at home and those kind of hours on it, but just something to take into consideration. I actually brought some Tractor House magazines. If anybody's interested in looking through those, I could show you some old tractors for the end of that. That's just my spiel on that. I'll let Mr. Randy take that.
On my, kind of a different direction. He talked to Bakers and LNH, and I talked to Lashley's. I went and met with Chris shortly after we had that meeting out at the farm. And Chris and I finally got together and had a chance to talk, about 4 o'clock this afternoon. And, yeah. And, he does have some intriguing things to say though. And, first of all, Kubota has all kinds of programs where they work. I don't have numbers for you. I didn't get dollar quotes. Chris and I had a good conversation though about, he said one thing we might want to do is get a 2 or a 3 year lease on one. The advantages of that are, and he said, you don't know where you're going. Like, we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what the plan is for 5 or 10 years down the road. But you get a 2 or a 3 year lease, tractor is always under warranty, so that goes to some of the stuff that Matt just said. Anything breaks on it, they take care of it, pretty much anything. And, you know, I too told him, I said, let's start pricing, and I said an 80-horse tractor, but it's in the ballpark range, and 12-foot windward dog as well. And at 4 o'clock, he said he would do that and get back to me. But did say that the lease thing is nice though. And I told him, I said, price it both ways. Price it if we were to buy it outright, and price it, give us a lease price for 2 to 3 years as well. He said he would do that. He recommended a cab. I think I like the idea of a cab because you get an instructor seat. Some people call them buddy seats. But that allows either Matt or I to have a student in the cab with us. It's not just you put a kid on it and say, okay, go, I'll be here at the edge of the field. For at least a while, you can be right in there with them and supervise, and it stays, you know, cabs. So, you know, Chris mentioned that they have a tractor and a baler and some hay equipment that they're prepping right now to go to Ohio State's Columbus campus. And he also went on talking about, I mean, belabor, taking their whole meeting, talking about tractors. He talked about demo days. He said, Eric, Kubota wants us to get these balers out and do demos. He said, we can set up something. If you're just talking 100 or 150 round bales of hay, we can come and baler hay for you at no cost to you. You know, and maybe a little bit of invite the public thing and make it a demo day. But he said, you may not have to buy a baler, at least not this first year or two. So we could, the Kubota wants us to do that kind of stuff. So
It's expensive, but
yeah, he brought up a good point. He said, you don't want to buy a $40,000 round baler that you're going to bale 80 or 100 bales of hay a year with. You know, factors like that. But if we can do something with this demo program, I think that would be great. If we get, maybe we want to explore a lease.
You know,
It's just, yeah. I say we get that work ethic, like Lori just said with the square bale, that, you know.
I tell you what, we got kids that would be all into it.
Yeah, they would.
Especially if you tell them that don't account for their SAE and they can make a little bit of money doing
Yeah.
it, or earn some of the hay that they can sell. Yeah, I don't want to interrupt. I answer your question, the longevity of the tractor, maybe I didn't,
You did.
I can't
I mean,
give you a specific year,
I
but
put question
our
mark.
older ones, they last for years and years and years, if they're well taken care of, and the newer ones will as well. I don't think there's, I can see it lasting.
so one thing that we kind of talked about on the side here, and again, the board, everybody here in this room knows more about farming than I do. However, I also think I have a pretty good handle on what's facing us in the district and that the potential of some things could be combined. And so what I would suggest you think about is, in year one, how do we start with things that are somewhat temporary, but get the job done for what's needed now and leave ourselves flexibility to do those greater things a little bit later. And one of the things I bring about is just the potential of the STEM designation and what that might afford us and what we might find out in some of our future projects. And also when you start talking about tractors and companies, we've done a lot of work with a lot of people that I've been talking to about possibly helping sponsor this, which I think is going to take a while. Now, a while, I'm not talking about like 2 days, but I'm not talking about 2 months. Like I'm thinking in the next month. So, you know, what's available to us, what things look like 6 months from now might look greatly different than today. So.
Has anybody reached out to Dale Minio? About maybe, I mean, does he have programs? You guys probably know him a lot better than I do. I mean, he may have programs and he's pretty, you know, high up.
It's worth a shot. I think he spoke on our back with the bro.
Yeah.
He did a really nice job.
And being alone, I didn't know if we'd reached out to him or not, maybe he would donate his tractor.
So are we?
At least he might have the connections to show us.
Yeah, some program.
So are we all on the same page before these guys leave tonight? And you don't have to leave yet. I'm just saying, before you leave tonight, are we on the same page that our most immediate concern is taking care of the property this summer?
Oh, yeah.
That's the starting point. And what that looks like. And one of the things before they start talking about potentially what we've talked about, the ideas of a building. In full disclosure, the next step we have on all of our projects is we're working to get all of our potential properties evaluated to see what can house what and where, and which of those facilities might be able to be combined on the same site. Obviously, the ag facility has to be at the farm. But we also have a couple other projects we've talked about, and we're still a little unsure about where those can logistically and physically go. So it could be the fact that this would be combined with another type of facility. So we were just talking about, what happens if initially you put up a hoop barn to store stuff that you wouldn't necessarily eliminate when you went to something more permanent. You can still have value long-term, but it'll be a short-term fix. So that's why I think initially we want to start with great flexibility. That makes sense? But I don't want to paint you all into a corner either.
But we put food building up, we got a place to store tractor, and then you got a place to store hay, and it's gonna be different than this facility. But ocean,
So, you've all seen the picture, I think, by now. I met with Rick Snyder from Morton Building. That's the only person I have talked to. He and I sat back in my classroom one morning and hashed out a rough idea. And this is still, even what you're seeing up there is a rough idea. Okay? We're in the baby steps of this, back and forth. In fact, I told him one of the things I'd like to see down one side of the barn is a lean-to. And he forgot, oh yeah, I forgot to include that in that. So that's the stage we're in. Basic schematics. We're talking a classroom that's about the size of my ag classroom back in the back hall, 18 by 20 or something like that. His original drawing had 2 classrooms in it. I got back to him and said, I don't know that we need 2 classrooms, but how about a little small group room and or office? So done. Mechanical room, men's and women's restroom with a incorporated into those is like some storage hooks for like a kid can leave a pair of boots out there or hang a pair of bibs on a nail when they leave for the day. That's what's included in the non-barn part. So that includes like a drop ceiling in that area. It's pretty well finished inside. We talked about a tile floor, just some rough things like that. But don't picture a classroom that has a barn roof, it's to be finished for interior. The barn itself, I told him I wanted flexibility and multi-purpose, where we could have any type of livestock in there or store about, where we could adapt it, where maybe parts of the year we want a horse or 2 in there, and parts of the year we need ephemera crates in there. And we came up with about a 42 by 80 is the size that we were talking. And don't quote me on that, but I think that's about what we roughed out. He started with Morton Building. Rick was a salesman. I built a Morton Building at home. And mine's 42 by 60. I said, that's get a little bit bigger. So he's at 42 by 80. Maybe it was 90, something like that. And again, at like 4:30, I got a text from Rick, and I'd asked him, I said, what's your price? And all along he's, well, I don't know. That depends on the site, I couldn't get him to give me a number. And just a few hours ago, he gave me a number. Something like that. And he said, Eric, don't hold me to this. He said, but this is a starting point for a budget, $588,000. That's the number he gave me just a few hours ago, or something like that.
That's Amish.
We have to sell a lot of hay.
I was like, Brenda, now you know why to get into farming, you've either got to marry or bury. That's how you get started.
it's funny, Mr. Van.
Sometimes one leads to the other.
Winning the lottery one time, and Mr. Van Fleet made a comment and said, well, we won the lottery. He said, we just farmed until it was all gone anyway. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's exactly it.
And I told Rick, I said, I don't know. I said, I threw that figure at Dan. I'll tell him one day. I threw him that figure at Dan while we were all talking before the meeting. He goes, well, that's not bad. I'm glad to hear you say that, Dan. I told Rick, I said, I don't know, the board.
But I
may
know,
look at
but I
me.
know things that you guys don't yet know. But it's all good.
The,
Was that with the lead too?
I don't know.
Probably like 3 days.
Yeah, think about that.
But in that perspective.
I'm sure that included the concrete, you know what I mean, like and we talked about, that included some wood on the inside of the barn to keep animals from beating the siding off of it. You know, that's pretty well a finished product, I think.
Is the floor concrete on the barn side too?
Yes. Yeah, the barn floor will be concrete.
Yeah, it's easier to clean, take care of, maintain.
Well, 2 days, you think that's why is that?
Whole backside.
And we shut it, barn shed.
What is it, the roof for? I mean, you got open soil
Ours
barns
ours
or?
is concrete on the outside of the barn.
Well, that's the flexibility. I mean, we're in the baby steps.
My thing is just understand on concrete. Yeah. They stand on concrete. Yeah. I'm not saying that it's. I don't know, maybe half of it, then, if they're just in a lifting thing. Like, I can put the poles on concrete.
Can't you envision the back part of it, a show arena where at one point we're practicing and we got kids in there showing
And
around?
that's kind of
Lifestyle
why,
judging,
that's kind of why I
I
said,
mean.
you know, he said 42 by 60, and I said bigger. He even said that. We get, all right, if we get bigger, we can push a smaller arena there. You have, he didn't say we, he said you have space for a small arena. And I envision exactly what you're talking about, where the kids always want to take a hog, but lives in downtown Bell Valley and hasn't had a place to keep a hog. Now you do. That's what I would like to provide that opportunity for a kid.
The 4-H fair out.
That's right. Turn around. So that's a rough draft, and Rick's, I said, give me a ballpark, that's his ballpark.
Thanks, guys.
But
Did you say that was a Morton and Rick is Morton? Was-
yeah, Rick Snyder is more, they're based, their office is down south of Caldwell on 821.
You can see him off the interstate?
Outside the library.
Okay, I guess I never really.
I guess the old library, yeah.
Never.
Kevin Flood works for them.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rick, I don't know, Rick must be, they do it by area, I think Rick and Kevin work out of the same office. This must be Rick's territory.
It is, yeah.
Because his last name was Snyder?
Kevin, and he's like, you need to call Rick, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But yeah.
Rick Snyder with Morton Buildings is who.
Eric, we're asking, we'll get some more bids. I mean, just.
Sure. We'll do whatever he tells us to.
Well, first of all, to build something like that, it has to be competitively bid. And so there's a process that goes with that.
That's that starting point.
Oh, absolutely. And truly, seeing kind of the floor plan, the plans of that, there's a lot of potential for that facility beyond just how we might use it during the day.
I've talked to different people, I think the extension service could use it in the evenings, I think. Soil and water could meet there, we could do. But
Endless.
It is. I mean, and then you look at the other.
But it's great to have that number, truly.
4-H helps bring in a trainer, show kids how to do showmanship,
Absolutely.
how you do with those things all the
So,
time.
so I would think, kind of a pie in the sky thing, if there was a tractor company would want to partner with us and hang a sign in the yard and sponsor of the Noble Local Green Acres Farm, and they wanted to use that, if somebody wants to try a tractor out, or they went, we'd partner with them any way that we could.
I really like the leasing of the
Yeah,
tractor.
Chris seemed like very.
To the day.
He said, I'm excited for you. He said, this isn't about me lining my pocket.
It makes too much sense to lease.
You want to really go
I don't know, is Dennis around there as much now?
for us, he would be.
Well, you're right about that. You're right about that. Anyway, those are our preliminary plans. I think Matt and I are excited. Matt and I have not had a chance to, like, we're hearing each other say these things for the first time.
We talked a lot about it.
I have a question. So I've heard a few people toss around the idea of, I guess I don't know, let me start with this. What's being in Cole's plan? Did we get an answer from
Yeah,
them?
we did. I'll let Mr. Leffingwell go without me.
Because that's gonna go to my next question.
Yeah, thank you.
You want to do it now or later?
Well, before you do that, I was gonna interject and say, we're gonna talk about the timber thing.
That's where I was going. Did we
Yeah.
ever get it appraised? I mean,
Well, I think, and I think Mr. Van Fleet, he had said this earlier, we got this building, this facility, and there's nothing better than working with the kids. I think he had mentioned and said, hey, letting our kids design and be part of that is gonna be pretty awesome coming at the beginning of the year, because we'll put the shell out and let the kids help with that. And we were talking at this, the meeting we had with Casey Moore, with Bandit Cole, and knowing that we're gonna have to, we were standing there and I said, Casey, I said, you need to look at that piece of property, because we were standing right out at that site, and tell them what it's gonna look like when we're done. He said, well, there's the tree line, and everything above the tree line is gonna be gone. He said, we're gonna coal mine everything there. And I'll let Mr. Ruffin, I'll talk about the agreement. But when we started talking about that, I said, there's nothing better for our natural resources class than to go out at the beginning of the year, forestry's first competition of the year, and take that natural resources class out and mark trees, and identify trees, and then have a forester come in and help us do that. And we were even talking about maybe getting a few different local companies to do the bidding and help us timber it. But I wanted to interject that it would be nice to have a company that, like there's, right now, it's huge here. There's 5 different timber companies within a couple mile radius timbering, just because everybody's getting coal mine, and they know that to get their maximum amount of dollars out of the trees, they need to get cut.
because I would be interested to know what the appraisal is when talking about all this stuff that we're gonna purchase. I mean,
Well, that was part of that's probably.
Yeah, there's so many ways to help offset that. So here's the plan. They don't know exactly when their permits will come through, where they can start, but it'll certainly be sometime in the future. We have another meeting with him and Carl to kind of finalize and get everything in writing. But the gist of it was that Casey said that they will need an access road, which the access road for them initially is to get to the area that they're mining. But the great thing about that for us long-term, it's given us access to the entire property. Our only obligation in that would be to provide the culvert required to go across, which again, we would maintain that long after they are gone. So that they had no issues with us working the bottoms and doing the things that we want to do, correct?
Yeah, and then that was, they're gonna help us maintain that.
Yeah, the next steps as far as the timbering we talked about was exactly what Matt and Eric just said, is actually work through that process even when we start school this fall, possibly sooner if we can get kids involved to find out what the potential that was, and then we would actually commit those funds from timbering into an ag fund for that, or a farm fund. So that's kind of the gist of that. I think the conversation went through that pretty quickly. Then it's just like when they do start, safety protocols and what we might need to do to keep people safe while they're working there.
It'd be neat, because at Meadowbrook, when I teach the timber crews, and the kids get to go scale the trees, and we take a guess on what the board footage is there, and then what the value is. Well, we can go do that, mark the trees, and then they're gonna cut the trees down, and we get to see a cut sheet when they take them up, and we can see how far off. It's gonna be the best that you could ever ask for, as far as, which we can't do it next year, because we won't have it the year after, because the trees won't be there, but it'll be nice for the group to come through as a real hands-on demonstration. But I think I wanted to add to that when we just select a timber cutter, we need somebody that's going to be able to work with the kids. And there's companies that they're going to say, hey, we can come, but we're going to go right through and cut. And we've got local guys, I think Guy and I know, and some other guys, some other companies. There's 3 I know that are local that you could go to and say, hey, can you work with us in our ag program and natural resource program, and come up and show the kids how to mark trees? Can we stay in the back in a safe distance and watch you guys fell trees and hook skidders up and move that and do those type of things? And I think those guys would be more than happy to help us in that process, which would be great.
And that was part of their mining plan too, was also to be able, when safe and appropriate, to include our kids in the learning process of going on as well.
That's good.
I don't think they're gonna be there that quick.
No, it's gonna be a couple of years. I mean, and they don't know for sure. It just depends on, just when they're across on the other side of my house, and they said when they get through there, they're coming here. It might be 2 years, it might be 4 years. Just depends on the permits and where they can go and how long it takes them. And a lot of it takes. They have it on.
Actually, one of these guys is here. I just texted Casey and asked him about that meeting.
Yeah, how long have they been at they started at Summerfield and just worked their way, how long's 15 years?
Oh, yeah, every bit.
In which they went, that was a big area.
Yeah.
Probably 20 years,
The
maybe.
way they talk, the way I understood Casey, that'll be their starting point over here. But
Yeah.
so they'll be in and out of us. That doesn't mean reclaim.
I mean, and what Casey said, when they're on the other side of the road, they're gonna come right on my property, come right around, because they'll end up right on the property where they start out.
We should have a culvert, shouldn't we?
Not to suit this project.
Actually, look like Guy did that, like his cup of tea right there.
Yeah.
They were starting to throw prices at us, and me and Ed were looking at each other like, well, hey, dude, how can you get that much in a culvert? It's gonna be a big culvert.
Well, they putting in it there.
Be something
Well, we
that
don't
trucks.
know.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say probably.
Oh, it'll be more just put the culvert in. You'll have to have flood things and
Yeah.
engineer.
What's quite a bit of.
All right, any other questions?
Anyway, Casey's supposed to get with me this, he'd like to have a meeting this week.
He's be late in the week.
The week coming up.
Late in the week. Maybe, I'll be back probably in the office
What's all meeting?
Thursday or Friday would be best for me.
Eric, I really like the thought of the leasing too, because it gives you so many options. At the end of the lease, you have the option to buy out as well. So that's what we do a lot
Do
of.
another lease or.
Yeah.
I like the
Trade it
idea
in.
of if something breaks,
Yes.
we can call them and. So then-
And then we can bring guys out to show kids that, hey, how you work on a tractor, how do you do certain things, and they'll show them, and maybe even on, like some of the drills and stuff that we get, they'll come out and show them how to actually operate, this does this.
I think this venture holds a lot of opportunities, not just for us, but also some community partners. And I think when we start talking about partnership's a two-way street. It's not just what our business partners can do for us, but what can we do for them? So I would just suggest in conversations, anything that we can do, what can we provide you in return for X? And make that facility available as much as you're comfortable with. You know what I mean? But I think that's really, we've been successful with our business advisory committees, and I think that could be a big part. We've made our shops available for people if they need it to train and do different things. So we can utilize that in the same way. I love the idea about using it to demo equipment, bale hay, and be a great way to get started.
And maybe we end up leasing the tractor the whole time. But he said if you get a new lease on a tractor every 3 years, or if you get one,
Especially if Kubota's cutting us a deal, which Chris said they would.
maybe that is the way to go.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just say this publicly.
In the long run.
It's hard to tell what that price may be of a facility when you go through competitive bidding. However, I'm gonna go back to the same way. It's a little bit of sticker shock, but when you think of the life and the usefulness of that and what return on investment you're gonna get back to offset those costs, I'm not discouraged by that.
You talked about, I think if we start farming our enrollment. And I see this, we've talked all along, it's not just a high school thing. I want kindergartners out there, I want preschool out there, everybody. So I see, I'm taking enough of your time.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
So,
Chad, you're next.
Next. I'll make it short and sweet. I think just go along with what everybody's talked about in terms of with STEM and the farm. We're trying to adjust essentially blow up a schedule and create a schedule that today we got farther than anywhere, and thank God for Marcy, because another set of eyes on it. We got really creative. So we've got our numbers on what our kids want to do. We did have them up here. I don't have them with me, but like we have, probably I would say about half of each class wants to take an advanced PE class. About half of the kids want to take something with Julie Harper. I'm probably not going to get everybody into the outdoor classes that wants to, just because they all want to do it. We've got art options and things, but so we came up with, we've got a schedule now, it's just starting to plug it in. I've never built a high school schedule. I wouldn't call it a middle school schedule, I wouldn't call it a high school schedule. It's kind of a hybrid, but the program we have, you put your kids in, you put your number of courses in, and then it builds a schedule for you. So I think by probably a week and a half from now, I'm going to be working out bugs and just trying to work out errors where kids have errors in their schedule. But so that's, and really it's all to support STEM and what we're doing. And it's trying to get some common planning time for all of our teachers, trying to give our K-4 a large block of time in the morning for literacy. So we're trying to, there's still so many daggone moving pieces. But it's all to support STEM. I'm excited where we're going. So we got that. Trying to think, kindergarten screening, we are moving that to August 5th, 6th, and 7th. We've contacted, spoke to, or left a message for every parent that we either talked to them, and, well, I shouldn't say we. Victoria and the mouse in her pocket. That'd be the we. Called all of our parents and either spoke with them and rescheduled them, or said, here's your time, call me if this doesn't work for you. So we've reached out to them, and I'm gonna send some postcards home probably towards the end of June, just reminding them to save the date. Trying to think what else I had tonight. I will say, what we did as a district with the way we provided work for our kids. We hired Mike away from Buckeye Trail. On Buckeye Trail, if you didn't have a computer, you got nothing since school's been closed. What they did, because they said we don't want the contamination or whatever, and I just don't, those are the kids I'm worried about. We've had teachers go into houses, we've had, we're delivering some, we've had a lot of kids, I'm worried about eligibility and those kinds of things, or even just not eligibility, but trying to get to them, and I've taken work packets to their house. Mike's probably going to help coach football, so I've got him keyed in on some 8th graders already that need to get their button gear, and he's went some home visits with me to talk to these kids about, the importance of, so he's already built relationships with those kids, but just everybody in general. Anything else I have to say tonight? 8th grade graduate promotion, I want to say graduation. Promotion is Saturday. Weather permitting, we're going to be outside. I think we've got a great concept where they're going to pull around, they're going to stay in their cars. We're going to set up the backdrop right outside. Mallets was in there today, started cleaning up, making sure our grass looks nice, because even in the rain, he's going to try and mow it for us Saturday morning if it's dry enough. But they'll pull around. We're not going to worry about trying to get cars in alphabetical order. We'll just have a list as they pull in, make that list, call the kid's name. I have an envelope with their certificates and any awards, and on the outside of it is their promotion certificate. I got a photographer coming, they'll get a picture taken. I'm going to record an introduction and then I'll take that to splice it together. Every parent will get one 8x10. They'll get 3 copies of a program so they can have the save for grandma and grandpa and whoever else. And then they'll have a link if they want to buy more pictures. And I told them, I said, if one person wants to get out, but I know if I say, family gets out, the next thing I know is I'll have the next family standing out and we'll have, but we'll just have, that's what I've tried to tell them. I was like, guys, I don't want, don't want you can't hang out. I'm sorry. If you want to do something and hang out somewhere, go hang out, but
You can
not
hang out.
here. Yeah, not here. And it was funny because we went back and forth about it. I said, you know what, guys, I think we'll shake your hand. And then I got 2 emails from kids. Mr. Miller, I don't think we should shake hands. I appreciate it, but we shouldn't shake hands. So I was like, okay, we won't shake hands. So weather permitting, we'll be outside. If not, we're just going to set it up inside. They'll shoot right in the gym. We'll have another family waiting, and they'll just loop in and out. And we're planning for about 5 minutes of family. We're doing it by their homeroom, so 8-1, 8-2, 8-3, and we're limiting it to 5. But they pull up in a 4-seat van, and I can't. That's fine. I mean, so that's our plans. Just excited about everything we got going on, and it's been a crazy first year. I will say that, crazy first year. But again, what people have done, it's a credit to the teachers. So
It doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger.
yeah, that's right, man. It's been good.
Thank you.
Oh, and I guess are we doing our how are you doing your IT winners? You announced your IT winners tonight? Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, my IT winners are Gretchen, Perez, Ben McCauley, for the way they've done some organization and really got some things working during this time. I mean, just pulled people together, and really the ICU and some of the things they've done, and then Andrea and Maggie, Andrea Blackstone and Maggie Yeagle for some of the work they've done in presenting at the literacy conference here earlier this year, and just different things. And they've kind of been a driving force behind some of the primary teachers really doing some different things. And so that's my IT winners, and I'm going to deliver those as soon as I make sure I got a handle on this schedule, I'm going to deliver those to their house. So.
Good.
Yeah, and thank you guys for everything you do and your support. Appreciate it.
Justin?
Thanks.
My IT winner, since piggyback off that, Miller, Sean, and Sean, the first year he was here, we had about 4 or 5 people in the social section. Now we have 2 classes there. So it's about 45 kids that take social psych. So pretty cool deal that it jumped like that. So I gave it to him today, and I did it on purpose because Bailey's looking clean and trim. Bailey's valedictorian. Oh, so, well, you're not the only one who gets it. So I gave Bailey a hard time. So that's how why I did that. But Sean was here today. As far as like what I'm going to say tonight, thank you guys first off for getting me through graduation. That was pretty interesting. A lot of people really liked it.
I think it turned out well.
It really did. It did go very well for my first pandemic. I feel pretty good about it. So,
It's your class.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they just add on or how it works. But, it did go well. It is online now, or maybe it's Saturday. I've seen it in day and seen it in places. That's been good. Talking about the farm just for a minute with Eric and those guys. We are working in the same state trying to get a certificate for livestock management certificate. So there's a little bit in the works with them. And so that's in the works. And I was going to say with Matt there to embarrass him, but if he really has any transcripts for real from anywhere, I could get him visiting state that natural resources class. We're looking to do that. So they'll credential him. They say, "Do you have this transcripts?" I don't have it yet. So I keep telling them, "Do you really have transcripts? Or is there anything on there that you really went to school or what?" And so hopefully that's easy. And we'll still keep the ones we had. I wrote a little piece for a magazine for Harrison today, and it was just kind of forward thinking, look at next year. Well, obviously, we're talking about the kitchen renovation and the cafeteria and the building out back, and so those things are all positive. Then we went into, I kind of went into classes. We got CCP science. Nellie's went back to school. She got credentialed. We got a CCP biology class, a CCP anatomy class, which is big for the kids who want to go into the medical pathway. So, you know, science was kind of the missing link that I couldn't get. That's why we were doing AP in its place. So Nellie's working hard there. Arduino, I don't know that that's a CCP class. They're checking into that. And that kind of goes over into his world a little bit. So Arduino, drone technology. We got 4 business classes that Rob's going to proctor because he's not credentialed. But however, so he's going to proctor and they're going to allow me to give 4 CCP classes in the business one. So it's just kind of rolling. It's pretty good.
You want to talk about how many kids are actually leaving
Oh,
campus for
you mentioned,
CCP?
that was the one thing you mentioned. We have 8 kids right now, 4 from this past year, which had those plumbers and pipe fitters. We got 4 more that got accepted, so there's 8 plumber and pipe fitters. And currently on the roster, and this could change, so, but we only had 4 to 5 kids going full board away at CCP. We have more plumber and pipe fitters than the kids need. Which is fantastic. It's unbelievable.
So
Not
if
to
you,
say that won't change, you know.
but it's a far cry from 57.
It's a far cry from 57.
Okay, and the reality of it is, over a 7-year period of time, because of the sacrifices the staff has made, we've gone from 57 to possibly 5. So another reason why I don't get alarmed, because we used to be sending that out.
So we still having many kids go to Mideast.
51 total, Zanesville and
So is that come down?
that's come down some, yes.
Yeah, it was 7.
It's in the 70s. It was basically a whole class.
Yeah.
What the number was. It was in the 70s. It's right on. It's 51. Yep, and that too. It's unreal.
So it goes back to access. You know, the thing that I preach all over the state about access is, in most places, the trip to the Career Center is a fairly short trip. If you think you're on the far east side of our district, if you want to go to a Zanesville program, you think about what that means to your day. Huge savings to our taxpayers, the investments we've made here for people to have access.
They do teacher academy classes at 6. Selfishly, K will have 6 teacher academy classes done. Crazy. 6 education.
That it?
Unless I forgot something else. Did I?
He forgot something, and then we'll go.
One thing I forgot, I think is kind of cool, is I got contacted by a dude I tried to hook up with. That doesn't sound right.
Hold on.
That's worse than the way he talked about the tennis balls, and we didn't know whether you can touch them or kick them. But Matt Earhart, he's at a career tech center, real big. He's kind of like Philip, the way he thinks outside the box. But Loco Robo, is that right? Loco Robo, they see the need for potentially having blended curriculum that's STEM, and so they are developing a virtual simulator for drones and autonomous cars. And he contacted me because they're looking for teachers to vet, because it's truly in the process of creating this platform, or the idea that we may not be able to see kids as often as we want to. So I talked to Jarvis and Mike about, hey, would you guys be willing to vet this and feel it out, see what you think about it. And I think what'll happen is they'll give us the program and some of the Loco Robo materials that we're wanting to purchase for the drones. You know, the drone technology is huge, so it'll be another piece that's, I think, once we start sharing that information, I think kids are gonna flock to us. I really do. So, I know I'm trying to figure out how I get a drone, but anyway. I thought I'd add that, and that'll be in both buildings, hopefully.
It's tough.
Thanks. Thank you.
All righty.
Appreciate
Moving
it. Thank you. I guess before they go, listen, great work through this whole craziness. I think how people that aren't involved in the business might perceive our days to go. It's been a complete turn upside down of everything we know, just like it has been for everybody. But I think our group, in talking to so many other school districts, you know, I know right now today what's going to happen at the state level about eligibility for next year. But I know that we've had to delay the announcement because so many districts were concerned that that would even decrease engagement that they already considered way low. So we can't even make the announcement about statewide athletic eligibility until June because so many districts were having issues engaging their kids during this time. And I think our engagement, given the situation, was fantastic. And I think at minimum, we talked about we'll come out of this, I would assume, with much stronger relationships with our students and our families. So from the bus drivers, the food service, to everybody that was out on the road, and everybody was in the kitchen, to everybody that was online meeting and teaching and being creative. Fantastic job, gang. So appreciate it. We learned a lot.
With that in mind, just thinking, because you probably all will get calls, we are, you know, I told teachers all along, not concerned about the grade, but if kids don't do anything, that's completely different. And if we reached out to them, we've made phone calls, we know kids have access, and they're just hiding under a rock, that's completely different. Because here's what happened is, I gave them till midnight on Monday night to get work in, and literally, you know, some of our 8th grade teachers got work at like 11:48, 11:49, but some of that going back, you know, and unfortunately, middle school parents were just taking the word of their middle schoolers that they were doing work, is what I think happened. So, what I told them though, I said, hey, if you're missing more than 50% of their work, giving them incomplete, and then I'm going to have, so once I get those incompletes, I'm going to tell them, here's your window, and I'll probably have them in June to make up some of this work. But, you know, I'm not going to hold, just go ahead, see you, congratulations, you know, I'm still going to hold them, you know, you need to, it's about responsibility and things like that. But that's how I'm handling some of the incompletes. But again, these are kids that just went under the rock and hoped we wouldn't bother them. And we had some kids all along say, oh yeah, I'll get it in, or I'm working on it. And they really weren't, and their parents were taking their work, they were doing their work online. So.
Yeah, it's hard to avoid when we're bringing it to your door.
Things are live. We're going to run a summer school July 27th through August 6th. That's a Thursday.
Virtually?
Well, we'll see. You know, I don't know. I'd like to bring some kids in, do some credit recovery, and Beth, myself, Emma, and the needs are for credit recovery. Those that decided to try to jump off the planet.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
See you then, Bill.
Thank you guys.
Brenda?
Have a good night. Yep.
Okay, I have the minutes of our last regular meeting.
Any questions? Motion Stotsberry, second.
Second.
Archer?
Stotsberry?
Yeah.
Archer?
Yes.
Carpenter?
Yes.
McElroy?
Yeah.
McKee?
Yes.
And then I have the minutes of our special meeting.
Motion? Carpenter, second? Duxbury?
Carpenter,
Yes.
Stotsberry?
Yeah.
Archer,
Yes.
McElroy,
Yeah.
McKee.
Yes.
I have several financial reports attached here. I had the disbursement summary report. We had the nutrition group's cafeteria report. We had the cash basis financial report from our records. We had the financial summary for April. Some estimated receipt modifications, which basically tie to the forecast that we're getting ready to talk about in a few minutes. And appropriation modifications. Also ties the general fund out to the 5-year forecast. That's it.
Questions, comments? Motion? Lori, second? Duxbury?
McElroy?
Yes.
Stotsberry?
Yes.
Archer?
Yes.
Carpenter?
Yes.
McKee?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna close a few things. Okay. We had an audit committee meeting right before this and kind of did a deeper dive into, I mean, not as deep as what, if we had more time, we could talk for hours and hours. But
Yes.
no one would like that except for me.
Depends on the circumstances.
Motion? Second.
Okay, so just indulge me for 2 minutes. Okay, so I'm just gonna hit the highlights. The state funding cut is reflected in line item 1.035, unrestricted grants and aid. And again, this is actual activity. You guys are probably tired of hearing me say it over and over again. The first half is actual activity. The second is forecasted activity. So this line item, this is where we've been all along, and this is where we are today. So obviously this number is less than this. That's where our cut in state funding is reflected. And then the footnote disclosure is saying things, I'm paraphrasing, but it's to the effect of, you know, this is being, the $245,000 cut is being allocated over just 2 months. At least the future cut for next fiscal year and the year after that and any years after that, at least it's over 12 months and not over just 2 months. So even though it's a bigger percentage, and here's the other part of the disclosure, I'm saying 10% cut in those future years based on the fact that some people are saying 20, some people are saying 5 or 10, 5, and I'm just going down the middle of the road. And what the disclosure is also going to say is that, we don't know for sure. It hasn't actually been said. We're just trying to, A, be conservative, and B, put something in there. We know there's going to be a cut. I said earlier, it's a living, breathing document. As soon as we know something, we will modify it and change it accordingly. Every month, I constantly compare my actual activity to my forecasted activity, so I know if there's something so impactful that I need to republish. So that will continue to be the case. That being said, a couple of positives. One thing, we got our first half collection before COVID-19 even happened. So some of the negatives were that because people are experiencing loss of employment, or lower income levels for whatever reason, they might go delinquent on their taxes. So it's possible that second half and future years, the delinquency rates would go up. Also possible, that collection split that we talk about, the reason this year is still very high. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm pointing at the wrong year. Next year, we've still got a pretty good chance. That collection split is still, I'm pointing to the wrong thing. Sorry. Now I'm getting, okay, here we go. Last year, 4.5 million, this year, 4.7 million. The reason this is still going up, okay, I'm back on track, is because of that first half collection split. We've got first half on our books. Second half, which is going to happen in August, is where we will start seeing those possible increased delinquency rates. And so it starts to dip down here. Then we have this driving back up, but only because it's a reevaluation year. So values are going to be reassessed. So there's a whole bunch of factors that go into that, but possible delinquencies, possible changes in the collection split for the future years is the reason you're seeing those fluctuations. And I have another chart I can show you guys later. I showed it to the audit committee earlier. It kind of takes all that and puts it into a chart format. Public utility, personal property, less likely to be impacted by those factors. A, because they're very large companies and they usually pay. You don't usually have any issues with that. However, we still have conservatively adjusted those pipeline figures. Remember we talked about before how 50% kind of was a threshold. So impact. I guess that's probably about it. I go down to the expenditure area. Payroll and benefits are these two line items right here. Then purchase services, supplies, capital outlay. I think someone asked me earlier on capital outlay, what was the big jump here? We actually paid for 3 buses during the fiscal year because of the way the bills came due. We bought 2 buses during our fiscal year, and then one of the payments from last year actually happened during this fiscal year. So that's a big chunk of that difference. This stands out a little bit, but remember those energy conservation bonds? We paid off the callable ones early. And so in order to get those off the books. We did find out that 2 of those bonds were not callable. So I had to put these back on the forecast. But once they're paid, we'll be done for good. $4 million transfers to the PI fund are still scheduled. The rest of that is transfers to the cafeteria fund, the athletic fund. The green area is the difference between revenue and expenditure. Ideally, we would like to not spend more than we receive in a fiscal year, but we understand that sometimes that happens, and we also understand that in the past, when that happened, there were reasons why that happened, i.e. the transfers, and we had a healthy enough fund balance to successfully recuperate from that. And the good news is we're not projecting any deficit spending going forward. And even with those state budget cuts, we're still having a pretty healthy fund balance. So even if we are mistaken by some marginal factor, we'll still be able to absorb those funding cuts. I don't think I mentioned this to the audit committee either, but there is some other funding out there that is going to be disclosed in the footnotes, the CARES Act funding. I just don't have any solid concrete numbers yet. They said it was going to be reflected in the CCIP, and they actually sent us a spreadsheet that said, here's what you can expect. But they said it was going to be reflected in the CCIP, and it is not reflected in the CCIP yet. So I just didn't feel comfortable building it into the forecast. It will be footnote disclosed, but it is not.
Do you have an additional document that has notes with the forecast? It's
yes,
the document attached, and I think with the audit committee, the 5-year forecast document that you open is just that document that we see. So I didn't know, could you send us the notes?
I will.
Okay.
It was intended to be right there. Sorry about that.
It's all good. I saw the title of the document. I'm like, let's see.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Good.
Oh, I was going to show you the chart that I showed the audit committee earlier. In another session. Let's see. I like that just because it's just like a snapshot of where this is real estate revenue, this is public utility revenue. You can't see it, but this is actually 2015 through 2024. It's kind of fuzzy when I make it bigger. Public utility personal property, so pipeline valuations, homestead and rollback, and then this chart over here is everything together. So, I think it's pretty cool to look at where we were and look at where we're going.
Motion to approve the forecast?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Stottsbury?
Yes.
Archer?
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
McElroy,
Yes.
McKee.
Yes.
And then I also have a pay calendar for you to approve.
Motion,
Motion.
Archer, second.
Second.
McElroy.
Archer,
Yes.
McElroy,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Stottsbury,
Yes.
McKee.
Yes. Superintendent?
Hey, before I get started in my point, I just want to tell you, you guys already know this, but it is fantastic to work with someone like Trenda that's on top of this, not just when it's time to present a forecast, but day to day. You know, this doesn't just happen in preparation for a meeting. She monitors it. It's fantastic. So thanks. Awesome job. So, and just to let you know, we talked about some things that cost money. And just remind yourself, because everything's a big dollar anymore, but remind yourself that of how we look at one-time expenditures versus repeating expenditures. So the facility that we talked about tonight, I'll give you a couple ways to look at it. It's an increase in enrollment of 18 kids over 5 years. It's the cost of one teacher for 5 years. And the lifetime of that facility is how many years? So it's a big sticker. But Constance and I have had numerous conversations. As we continue to grow, we're not trying to reinvest all of our money. We're trying to reinvest a portion of our money, keep those opportunities. So the opportunities that we've recently added took our number of kids leaving for college campuses, most recently from 32 to, let's say, 5. Before that, it was 57 to 32. So as we've invested, we're seeing that return. And one of the things that I hear a lot on the negative side is we have no plan for sustainability. There could not be anything further from the truth. You know, we don't make these decisions in isolation. We don't make them because, oh, wow, it sounds good, let's do it. We don't make them because they're isolated and they happen by themselves. There's a connection to all these things. And unfortunately for you guys, you get to hear a little bit about it, but we talk about it every day. And so Trenda, keeps us absolutely spot on where these projections are and where we think that we will be. And we're also fully prepared with a plan. If our reductions had been ×3, I could have told you where I think we can reduce. So we typically try to make change. Like we're going to talk about some personnel things later, and I think there's some areas in which we can just stay put and we can not. So we do try to balance it. So many times the money going out gets the attention, but there is an investment strategy from an educational programming and operations side that we don't always spend a lot of time. But sustainability is at the forefront. So Trenda, thanks for staying on top of that. My first item of business, personnel matters.
I just have a question. When do you think that they will release how much state funding will be reduced? Do you have an idea?
I don't really have a pulse on, you could just never know.
Definitely at the end of the biennium.
Yeah, you always used to think, you're locked in for the biennium. And that's how we always used to, and then this happened. I don't know how to answer that. Magic 8 ball.
So under personnel, you see a list of items there, including a couple retirements from Mr. Caldwell, who's been with us for the previous 6 years, and Mr. Schwederman, who's been our guidance counselor since retiring earlier in his career. Both have been fantastic, and we will have something for them in their retirement at our June meeting, which is customary for all of our retirements. So we're going to ask, even though they've both retired before, they have been outstanding employees for us for obviously Mr. Schwederman for a long time, and Mr. Caldwell's been a nice addition as well. You see that we are have a recommendation for a bus driver replacing Jim Seacrest, who recently retired. And you see several renewals of administrative contracts, certificated contract renewals, especially for Lori that's new. There's some legal requirements, and this is consistent with our negotiated agreements. So typically our teaching staff are on 3 one-year contracts, then they go on to a 3-year contract. All those are also linked, obviously, to the evaluation cycle, not only required by the state, but it's in our negotiated agreement. So there you have it.
Dan, are any of these on here on improving plans?
Yes.
Okay, so this does not tie us in, we'll just say, for instance, if there's a 3-year contract and somebody's on an improving plan, that they are tied into that 3-year contract.
Correct. Correct. But I will tell you, COVID
Changes a lot.
COVID changed a lot because our evaluation guidelines, when you have someone in that situation, requires so understand there's a daily, I have to evaluate you so many times. There has to be a minimum certain number of so many days between those evaluations, which means you can't possibly do the 3rd evaluation typically before late March, early April.
Saved. I mean, not here, but maybe
Right.
other.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Motion,
Motion.
Archer, second. Second, Mike.
Archer,
Yes.
McElroy,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Stotsberry,
Yes.
McKee.
Yes.
Under business matters, most of those are standard things we have to have for participation in different purchasing co-ops, the Homeless Education Act. We went ahead and put our band trip that we typically take in August. Obviously, at this point in time, it's unknown whether that's going to be. But while we were thinking about it, we thought that would definitely be something that our folks would like to do if and when we're available to do it. We also have our list of bid items that are due by tomorrow, primarily with our kitchen equipment. We will have another auction in August of equipment from the weight room, our old weight room facility, but we will not do that prior to August because we want to make sure that we get maximum use out of that before we're able to move into our new facility. So we'll probably have a list for you in July, and then the auction might not actually take place until sometime August or even mid-August. You see policies. This is the second read. We would be approving. Then later in discussion, because we missed the one meeting, you'll see the first read of some other policies to keep us current with our policy manual. That's it for business matters.
The food service is on there too, Dan, the
Oh, yeah.
agreement for the
Oh, yeah, those people.
renewal. And Lorraine apologized, she wasn't here tonight. She actually had another commitment, another meeting commitment. I told her not to stress about it. But I wanted you guys to know that she really cares. And Fawn came in her place. I wasn't expecting Fawn to be
Right,
here,
so
but
Fawn would be what is your official title?
I'm the regional manager.
Yeah, so.
Uh-oh. Take it all back, I'm sorry.
Hey, listen, your service through this has been amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
It really is all Lorena. I couldn't do it without her.
Yeah, she's been great.
Okay.
So Fawn and I have been crunching some numbers budget-wise, and, obviously this year was just a lot, like we had to basically throw it away and we'll start fresh next year. I think we all agree that, Lorraine has done a wonderful job of helping us get through this program. Like, I don't even know what to call it. Summer feed is what you guys call it, even though, or extended, am I saying the right words? Extended summer?
Seamless summer.
Seamless summer, there we go. But obviously because the costs were crazy and we went through, we discussed the fact that, the guarantee letter is pretty much because of those circumstances not gonna happen this year. So we crunched some numbers for next year. We have some lunch prices on here for you guys to look at. I didn't pull it up on my screen, I thought I did. Did I?
So is the summer meal not happening then, Trinity? Did I hear you right?
That's separate. This is
Another topic.
the program that we're doing right now is considered
We just finished.
Yeah, gotcha. So I thought I had that pulled up here. Second, guys, let me see what I. Nope, not that. This was their flyer for, I thought this was really cool, for students. Decide to get snacks from the cafeteria for their classrooms if they want to have parties or.
And this helps too a lot with allergies. It helps because if we know that if a student has allergies in the classroom, we know that. So then the teacher doesn't have to worry about the parents bringing in cupcakes if they have nuts or something,
I must say I used the program and took full advantage of it, and it is absolutely phenomenal. Lorraine is so accommodating and just, I can't say enough about it. I mean, and you gotta look at it too. I'm sending a 4-year-old on the bus with 50 pounds worth of juice and drinks. It just doesn't work. So I was doing multiple trips, and when this came about, I talked to Lorraine and she was just very flexible, and, I was offering to take snack days from parents because it was that couldn't do it. It was just so convenient. I mean, it was just phenomenal. And then Lorraine knew what they were having in class for snacks, so she was able to switch it up and add some variety, and it was just painless. It was just phenomenal. I will always use it.
Too.
Yeah.
The food this summer, or during this closure, has been, I rode every bus at least once, and I had several parents, this is shitty. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Has any of the coaches or anything approached you about doing some of that?
Not me, I don't know if they have Lorraine. She has
We're trying to determine if there will be a season.
Right, you're
Once
right.
we do that, we might think about bringing meals.
Yeah, that's not that, but I knew that was part of the plan.
Football used it last year, and they loved it. I know they plan to do it.
Oh, it's a win.
It's right here.
Yeah.
And do you want me to resend you?
She said you're struggling. You want her to just forward the email.
Are you looking for the paid lunch equity that I sent you, or the renewal paperwork?
The renewal paperwork, there it is, right on top. No? Where's the
Yep,
one that
that's
had all
it.
the lunch prices on it? There's the
That's-
smart snacks.
That is it, go up. The renewal paperwork is like a 24-page document.
Okay, so I'm just not looking far enough.
Yeah, the lunch prices are all the way at the bottom. They're it's the last 3 pages of that.
Okay, so I did have it pulled up on my screen, I just didn't have it. Okay, I was reading the letter and I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so scroll down. By the way, this is what we're predicting for the bottom line next year. Given our wage increases, the increase in the cost of our health insurance plan, and these prices. Yeah. Okay. Elementary lunch. Now, keep in mind, this is an increase. It was $2.75 before, right?
Yes.
And it had, when there's it's called a PLE.
Paid lunch equity.
Paid lunch equity, analysis that you have to go through. And we didn't really want to increase prices a quarter, but if we don't, then we start off 12 cents behind the next year. And then we have to make up for that. It just will snowball on us. So after talking to the team, I said, let's just go ahead and take the hit this year so that next year we hopefully will not have to increase double that. That affects your adult lunch prices as well, because there's another formula that you have to go through to calculate adult prices. Now, and tell me if I say this wrong, if you don't, then when the state review team comes in, they will.
Yeah, so both student lunch prices and adult lunch prices it's based on USDA recommendation. And if you do not follow those, then when the state comes to review you, you'll get dinged for them, and then you'll have to do it for review.
What do you see as far as, is that the norm as far as pricing yet?
Yeah,
It looks low. I mean,
that is the norm. It's
I mean,
usually
there's-
around $3. Secondary lunch, we said $3.25, but
This is the high school.
they get more grains, they get more vegetables, like they get more.
Bigger portions.
Yeah, bigger, yep.
it just seems cheap to me.
Well, my comment
Especially
after
when
we
you go
got
to
done
Subway, you
talking
have to
about
pay
it,
that for lunch.
I was just fretting over it so much because I was like, how can I take this increase to the board? And then I thought, it's still cheaper than McDonald's and you're getting a good, healthy meal. You're not getting McDonald's.
Hell, buy you go to McDonald's. $8?
Something like that.
You could not buy that for that price out anywhere. You couldn't. And
I don't think it's gonna surprise anybody. Thought we would pound the hamburger $7 now.
Oh, yeah, ain't that the truth?
Consideration, the recent price
Let you know tomorrow.
hike in groceries, or is that even
That
reflected?
doesn't even affect USDA sets the. So how prices are set is, say we take the free reimbursement, which is $3.50, and you subtract the paid reimbursement from it, which is 41 cents, so you get $3.09, and you round it down to the nearest 5 cents.
Another day I
So
did.
$3.05 is supposed to be your weighted average.
$6.98.
So how we got the $3.25 and the $3, you do more elementary lunches, so we had to increase them just a little bit more to get the $3 and the $3.25. And it takes how many lunches you do at those prices and get your weighted average to the $3.05.
You
Love that, didn't you, Trenda?
we played around with all kinds of, and I even said, is there another way besides weighted average? But there isn't.
Unfortunately, there's not.
So,
But yeah, it is all set by USDA.
What cost would those have to be at to get that bottom line to zero? Just for my,
There's a lot more factors than that.
I know, I mean, would you, would you have to raise them 30%?
You would have to raise them a lot to get your bottom line to zero. And honestly, I could play around with it to see what that would do.
If it's, I know, that'd be a lot, because you calculate it over so many different things, but it just seems like $2.20 for adult breakfast, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So did that raise,
Obviously, regulations.
did that cover the 12 cents that Jen was talking about?
Yes,
No,
that,
we don't- yeah.
yeah, so if your prices are $3 and $3.25, you are where USDA recommends it now.
With no catch-up to do. Now, that's not to say we won't have to increase at all next year,
Yeah, 'cause
but at least
reimbursements
next year, we
should
won't
increase.
be playing catch-up by that 12 cents plus whatever.
That's a big play on words there with the
Yeah,
ketchup,
I'm like,
right?
oh.
Yeah.
that's good.
That include condiments or what?
Is there anything else I should say, Paul? Everything else is pretty, well, that 139,000 was obviously more like 150. Our first scenario that we went through kept prices the same,
Yeah, it dropped.
just
by
for a place
50,000.
to start, and it was like 159,
I think it was 151.
151,
Yeah, I
okay,
believe.
negative. So you can see what, just the amount that we did raise it was that much impact, so.
Are you guys happy here?
Yes. Don't tell any of my other districts, but this is my favorite one.
She doesn't ever.
Yeah.
But you got that answer right.
At least I got one.
I've told Lorraine over and over how much we appreciate her, and told Fawn how much, we feel very lucky. The girls in the office, they are very easy. Lorraine comes over every day and makes sure everything's good. Like, as soon as they ask her a question, she's right on it and answers right away. She's great.
Yeah,
And you are too, thank you.
thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Whether compared to the last few years, I ain't heard nothing. If I don't hear nothing, that's good. It's been nothing but positive. Anything else?
Oh, yeah.
I'll make sure I
Yeah,
attach
we're glad
this
to have you.
to that too. Got it written down here.
Dan, you done?
I'm done. What I'd like to do after you vote for this, if you guys didn't care, go ahead to my discussion. While Juan's here, we can talk a little bit about summer.
Okay.
By the way, just on the bid stuff, we have a lot of bids to go through tomorrow.
Oh, really?
A lot. I'm very excited, and I know Lorraine is too, because I told her the better we do on this bidding project, we might be able to get her some of the shelving that she wanted to incorporate into the project, but we weren't able to, so.
Hey, that should get ready to food service.
All right, motion. Second. Carpenter, second. Salisbury. Okay, now Dan, you want to get back?
Yeah, so it's been mentioned a couple times about what's going on with summer feeding.
Oh, I'm sorry, Truman.
It's okay.
So we do plan on offering some summer feeding in the months of June and July. We had hoped to collaborate with some other people locally and provide some things, but we're going to be doing it.
Who forgot to vote, Dan?
Oh, go ahead.
We got it, everybody? Okay,
Yeah.
I got it. Go ahead.
So working with Chastity at the EMA and some other folks, a lot of the sack lunch programs that were sponsored by our churches are not going to be able to function this summer, just due to the fact that a lot of people that did the bulk of the work are in that most vulnerable population. So certainly we wanted to provide some protections for them. So we're working with Chastity and Lorraine's really taking the lead on this. Obviously, we need a place to cook and prep the food since our kitchens are under construction, and we have landed and we've worked with Kirby at the health department. And we're actually going to use some facilities at the fairgrounds. The fair board gave us approval to do that, and then we will actually prepare and help deliver meals not only to our satellite locations, but also some locations typically served by the the community lunch program and the SAC lunch programs. Tentative plans are to do service days only 2 days a week, Monday and Thursday. And we've already had a large donation by one of the churches. And talking today on the conference call, I think that there are some other funding sources that we will be able to. I had one person tell me that we just need to figure out what the cost is and let them know, because they have some COVID resources willing to support this. So I think it's financially, it makes sense. I think it's the right service to provide the entire community, the entire county. So actually meals that we prep will be served as far south as Maxburg and Dexter City, throughout Noble County. Obviously the spots within our district that our folks have indicated they'd like to pick it up. I think going into it right now, we're about probably around 90. So I think it's a good thing to do. We have plenty of staff. Lorraine will share with me, she thinks it'll only take, labor-wise, it'll only take 2 staff members and 2 drivers each day of service. So we're close to making that happen.
We have volunteers for that?
Well, our drivers and cooks can't be volunteers, but I think.
Well, that would say
Yeah,
I'll
we
work
do.
at some, not volunteers, but you know what I meant, to
Yeah.
volunteer work at some.
Yeah, not only our employees, but people that, have been involved in the community program for a while, so. Plan would that be, that would occur during June and July. Anything you want to add? We're talking about reimbursement, anything like that? It's basically the same as we have seen.
Yeah, it's the same as it's seen this summer. So every child will get a free reimbursement, which is $3.50 for lunch and $2.20 for breakfast.
They, you said 2 days a week, but will they get
Yes,
Yeah.
3 and 3.
We're gonna get 6 days,
6 meals a week?
What you're saying is,
Lunch
So
and
on
breakfast.
Monday, we'll be giving them three breakfasts and 3 lunches.
the reimbursement piece of it.
Yeah, lunch is $3.50 and breakfast is $2.20.
The reimbursement
Yes.
is that much.
Yeah.
They don't have to pay it.
No,
Yeah.
it's completely free. Yeah. And it's nice because USDA has waived all of their regulations for summer feeding. So parents can come pick it up. We normally during regular summer feeding, we have to have a different time for breakfast and lunch. We can do both times now. We can do multiple day deliveries. So USDA has really relaxed all of their regulations through August 31st.
I'd look for that number to go up, if you did. If you're doing that big a area.
Good. Hopewell didn't announce today they're feeding their students too, as they have all along, so.
Oh, they are?
Are they gonna be set up at the same areas or?
They're gonna serve at elementary.
Okay.
I'm there to pick up on Monday, that's all we're doing. But it's good.
Anything else on that?
If you want, no, that's all on that. I just wanted to make sure that you didn't have to stick around for a long time. I can go ahead and go through the rest of my stuff if you want.
Thank you.
Fine, great, thank you.
Thank you. Heather, could you sign that for me?
Go ahead, Dan.
Phase 3 construction obviously is well underway. And I think we're making great progress. The kitchens are tore out, ready for the auction for those folks to get that stuff out. You'll notice that one of the 2 entryways into the high school kitchen's already been opened up. There will be a second. We actually got some cafeteria quotes in today for the furnishings, and right now we're about $30,000 under budget on that, which is fantastic. So we're going to continue to work and try to leverage whatever we can to get a great product at a great price. The playground, they've made great progress over there. Last 3 days have been kind of rough on them, but
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
They don't know where the water flows at, really.
yeah.
Yeah, a 24-inch may not be big enough.
So here's one thing, because we're in phase 3, and so you can think about it tonight, but I really think that this is where we should go. When you think about what is phase 4, I think to get out of the elementary and high school buildings as we know them, phase 4, I would recommend to you is the front hall, which is classroom, flooring, and cosmetics, some cabinetry. It's a budget for an auditorium upgrade. It's having our number updated for the elementary LED lighting retrofit to replace all those old lights, because one of the things Trent and I talked about, the sooner we do that, the sooner we're going to start getting the return for that. And then the locker rooms at both SES and SHS. If we look at that as phase 4,
God.
that's a fairly minimal project compared to what we've had. It would not, will not take more than half our transfer, which would allow us to build that fund while we're planning for some of the larger projects that we've talked about. So my thought is phase 4 can be complete next summer, while at the same time, we're identifying and planning for phase 5 and 6, which could include, again, some of those larger projects that we talked about. This would also be small enough that you can continue to make an investment in the farm through the PI fund. We won't overextend ourselves. So the reality of it, believe me, we're too early for me to tell you what I think this costs. But let's just say it's $1.8 to $2 million of the $4 million transfer. You're leaving 2 there, and the following year you're transferring, and you have that ready when you hit the ground with a bigger project. I think it gets us out of the buildings, it gets SES up to date with the lighting and the energy efficiency there. Gets our locker room. The locker rooms at SES won't require a whole lot. Locker rooms here will be a little bit more significant, but for most of the time in these front hall classrooms, it's simply abatement of the old flooring, new HVT, flooring that we put in the back hall, and paint.
We were like cosmetic updates and updates to the bathrooms and through the K2 bathrooms in the elementary school.
Can we clean them? Yep, absolutely.
I mean, I think that.
We'll certainly look at that when we go through there, because they can use.
I think the different than locker rooms at the elementary, I think you're going to have a substantial amount in there. It depends on what you're.
I made that statement based on the fact I've done the plumbing over there.
Okay.
You know what, the plumbing, what I'm thinking is costly here is the plumbing.
Oh, yeah, the shower.
We did all the plumbing when we did the HVAC project at the elementary.
And all the showers and stuff work there, and the shower.
Yeah.
So basically, the locker rooms over there are just cosmetics.
Cosmetics.
More so. I mean, when I was talking about cosmetics, I'm including lockers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, we'll start putting numbers together, just budget numbers for that. But to me, that made sense, because our next larger projects that we've talked about, the planning phase for those alone could be ongoing while this is in preparation for it to hit. So if this is summer 21, and even you wanted to start the next phase fall of 21, you're going to be in a better situation financially. The other thing that Trent and I talked about today that you guys already know, the way we've approached our permanent improvements and the strategy behind that really put us in a good spot when we started seeing reductions in state aid. Because if we had to shut down and not spending, we're okay, we took care of the necessities first. And we're talking about niceties or luxuries in the future. That was really a good strategy, and I commend you guys for that. That put us in a good spot. So if we can get out of this, like not go in the auditorium with, hey, what's your dream? Hey, let's start with a budget in mind so we can control that number a little bit more, knowing that we have other projects we're going to need to support to a greater extent. So if you guys are good with that, I can get the evaluation, the budgetary piece of that going yet this summer. Also, what you want to do with the farm, the property across the street, ground in the front of the building, we want to start having a study done talking about what can we feasibly put where. So we know as we start talking about future puzzle pieces where they're, we can say, well, we'd like something here, but if it's not a viable site, we need to be able to rule that out so we don't waste time.
We need a thorough evaluation of the
Yeah,
property.
so I'm having Josh kind of put together a proposal of what that would look like, and we talked to him this week. So that's, and we'll add as we go through there, looking at those restrooms.
We already got the one number on the, who's gonna do anything over there if that property moving that power. That was 50 grand. So,
Yep.
to open that up, get everything set. Yeah, a study would be good.
Bouncing back up to the May policy, this is the first read, just take your time reading those. This is all Family and Medical Leave Act expansion due to the Coronavirus Response Act. So emergency paid sick leave as well, so take a look at those. But obviously, those policies will have a sunset. They won't be permanent policies, but they're required during the time in which we deal with this. And the last thing, we've talked a lot. I think it was erased up there, but one of our things that we really tried to impress upon our staff to some success, but not always, make those things certain that you can make certain. Because in times of uncertainty, people crave certainty. And any of the things that we can make certain that are logistical, operational, let's do it, because every one of those things creates stress. As long as many hanging chads as we have out there, that's just uncertainty. If we can tie those things up, it gives people a sense of relief. The next big thing is everybody and their brothers putting out on social media what they believe next fall is going to look like. And everybody's reacting to it, and the emotions are running high, and it's a time of great stress and tension. We have already began working on some scenarios with what we believe the guidelines would be today. The governor and his staff have said to us repeatedly, he said it again today and yesterday, they hope prior to the end of May that they'll have some worst case scenario guidelines for us. We're working on worst case, we're working on best case. Best case is you can't modify something that's not right for full go. So in this time of school year, we're planning for the next. It is the busiest time of the school year. I can't modify something before I know what it would look like in its whole. So we're finishing that process. So when we have our staff meetings every Tuesday, we spend 95% of it talking about plans to be back on a regular schedule. We spend 5% of the time talking about how do we modify that with guidelines. I personally, and I'll put some all calls out in the future, we just need to stick to the course that right now we're planning to be back full time. There's no greater example than what's happened in the last 10 days. A month ago, they shut school facilities down through June 30th. So you think nothing's happened in July 1st. Now we know facilities can open on May 26th. So things are changing rapidly. We just need to know we have plans. I can tell you, I could give you a guess of where I think this is going to land next year, and we would have some people running through the streets in panic. I can tell you that educationally speaking, we're good with those scenarios. We're really good with those scenarios. I think they're fantastic, actually. The problem doesn't affect us educationally. The problem with some of those scenarios hits the individual parent and child care needs, which we're also working on some solutions for. So we're trying to anticipate things. We're trying to calm people down that assume that the sky is falling, because I'm not convinced that the sky is falling. But we just right now as we can just try to reassure people, we're going to have a plan and we're going to help facilitate what they need. But I think the greatest challenge with any alternative plans to what we know as regular school is going to lie in childcare needs. And so that to me is the biggest. I will tell you, and Philip might want to expand on this. So here's the luxury that we have. This being taped. Okay, so I want to make sure everybody knows this is just a scenario. If the scenario were that you can only have half as many kids in a school at a given time, and you had an A group and a B group, and A group this week went 3 days a week, while B group went 2, and next week that flip-flops. So you're actually in school 5 out of every 10 days. Every kid has a device. All we hear is broadband, broadband, broadband. If we're allowed to be in school under those scenarios, when a kid is in school, we can download onto that device resources for them to work offline at home. So in that scenario, broadband is not a huge issue. So I was actually on a call with several people that work in the Capitol building today, and when I made that statement, it was silent. Because there's talk about investing billions in broadband. Broadband is absolutely critical if we can't come at all. But if we can come, not nearly critical. It's an oversimplification. So we even have to watch what we wish for. So I was on a phone call a month ago, and one particular superintendent is pushing for, we need hotspots. There's no cell signal. The hotspot's not going to fix it. So I just think we have to slow down. We have to take a breath. And right now, if I can tell you, the biggest issue facing scenarios other than regular school is that around trying to organize and help facilitate childcare on the days that your group's possibly not in school. Educationally, I think our folks feel that we can do a really good job in that blended model. Our concern lies with the families and the childcare needs when their child's not in school. We also have already worked through scenarios. What would we have to have in place? Well, we have to make sure that every family's kids are in the same group. We'd have to make sure that our staff's kids. So if I have a paraprofessional that works here, and they work with a kid that's in A group, well, I got to make sure that that staff member's kids are when they work with that kid. Because the first thought is, hey, we can deal with less people because this person now can work with twice as many kids. Well, that doesn't necessarily work because you're going to need childcare on the days you're not there because you're kids. Believe me, we're pretty thorough in what we do as far as planning. I personally, personal opinion, it's irresponsible to really publicize tentative plans based on unknown guidelines because people take that, they create their reality, and agree. That's just one scenario. We're planning 95% of our time for business as usual. We say 5% of the time we're preparing for scenarios, but that's regular, that's daily, that's every day. We're talking, we're collaborating, we're communicating, and we're finding out what our options are. So, we've looked at child, for a daycare license for a while. That doesn't help us in this scenario because it's the bill. We can't bring them to our building. So we're looking at, talking with area partners who we might partner to help accommodate people. But that's challenging. It takes time. So so I guess I would say this. I feel fantastic. I feel confident that next year will be a good year educational. I'm concerned about parents and childcare in the scenarios that we're not back in full time. Does that make sense? I think that's valid. So we're working on.
I've heard talk about that scenario. There's been parents tell me that if we go to that, they're just going to have to homeschool because they don't get on it.
We're
They
going
don't want that
online.
situation.
That's what someone said. Or they going online.
Yeah. So part of that, I've heard that too. But what do you want me to do?
Well, I'm
And
just telling you one.
But here's the thing that doesn't make sense about that. When I had a parent tell me that, so wait a minute. So because you're just going to be home all the time, you're not going to send your kid at all? So you're saying on one hand, I don't like online schooling, so if I can only go 3 days a week, well then heck with it, I'm just gonna do it all online. Seems kind of contradictory to me. But I get it, people are going through a lot of different scenarios. And again, look how much things have changed in the last 10 days.
Well, I think people are just panicking as a working parent.
Oh,
I still need someone to watch my kids.
absolutely.
I think that's what people are panicking.
No, they are. And unfortunately for us, I want to comfort people. And the only comfort I can tell them is right now, we're going to be prepared to serve you the best we can. We're anticipating not just our obstacles, we're anticipating obstacles that our parents and families are going to face, and we're going to try to help them through it. Unfortunately, I know that's the issue statewide. I mean, it's not just us, it's a statewide issue. And so what you hope is by collaborating with a lot of people, you bring a lot of minds to the table and you find the model that works and you try to see how you can fit that to your community. But, I just want everybody to know it's on our top of our concern list. We work every day at it. We're advocating. We want everybody back. We want everybody back as in school as we know. And that's what we're planning for, but we're also planning other scenarios with the primary thing being supportive of them and trying to help facilitate their inconveniences through childcare. So. Great. Any questions? I don't know if you saw today, but May 26th, some of our individual sport training, weight room, small group, not competitive, so there's not going to be any scrimmaging right now. There's not going to be any of that, but we can start returning kids on May 26th. I also think it's important for you to know just because we're allowed to come back on May 26th may not mean that we are back on the 26th, because there's some things that we want to make sure we have in place. We want to do it right. So we're working from not only the guidelines for those things, but for example, our weight room not only follows the guidelines for that, but it also needs to follow all the guidelines that go along with personal fitness facilities. And until we're prepared to do it, meet those guidelines, it may be June 1st before we get open. When we open, we guarantee that we're going to do it in a safe and responsible manner.
They've done away with the 10-day contact.
The 10-day contact is out, and you have until August 31st. However, we've talked about that. Just because they've done away with it, we have to be really careful and communicate, because we can't have everybody trying to pull the same kid in 4 different directions. Yeah. And the reality of it is, in the coaches meeting, we all agree that the strength and conditioning aspect is something that will benefit all. There's not going to be, right now, there's no 7-on-7, there's no team camp, there's no this or that. So we are still cognizant of, just because everybody has an unlimited number of days, Constance can't be everywhere 3 coaches expects them to be. So we need to be aware.
I think that's already happening too. Right here. With everybody wanting to pull, where certain schedules were set up before for summer leagues. Now some coaches.
Well, it's that way every year though.
Well, on certain, here it was set up for like Wednesday nights was a certain sport, and now another coach, now that they have open time, well, I'm going to do a league here myself on that night. Okay, so you're right, we are going to have to.
Now,
we discuss
we had an open discussion that, the likelihood is, so here was the viewpoint of the OHSA. Everybody wants local control. So just because there are no 10-day limitations imposed by the OHSA doesn't mean that we can't impose one. And if they can't manage our kids and their teams, then I've made it very clear, we'll just continue with the 10-day rule.
Yep.
Coaches can work with their athletes 10 days in a month. Typically it's June and July. But now that date has been extended through August 31st just because we lost so much of our spring. Yeah. So we've had, our coaches, I think, will cooperate. We had a nice conversation. We shared all these concerns. So we will. The weight room obviously will be, those areas will, it's not like we can have 60 or 70 kids in there at once. So we're trying to put together a schedule. We're trying to contact kids, what time's best for you. You know, likelihood is we have 13 racks, spread them about 6 feet apart.
Cleaning,
It's gonna take some time. Yep.
that'd be a big thing. So
Yeah.
Make sure that,
That was a change that was announced today, actually, so May 26th. We went from everything being closed through June 30th to now we can bring people in as early as the 26th.
and 12 playoff teams, all you do, right?
Huge. That was at Donnybrook.
Oh, God, I'll bet.
Okay,
That's all I had.
well, let's just go backwards. Trenda, you got anything?
I do not. I think you've heard enough from me.
It's all
Vocational
good.
information, that's on there. You can look at it during leisure. Legislative, anybody got anything?
I had an interesting call from Hyatt Telecommunications Association representative that works with the governor's office. And that's weird that Dan brought up the broadband. He asked me, he said, hey, I got your name, you know, you've been in this business for quite a while, and we're looking for ideas. What do you think would be, well, he made a mistake. Well, for 12 minutes, I never shut up about what needs to be done as far as fiber optics and broadband equipment, how you do this. So, long story short, at the end of it, I put in the thing, hey, we need to get back to where we was doing this before, rebuilding rural Appalachia. You know, getting them online with everybody else. And it kind of plays right into the STEAM, collaboration, I guess you'd say, for lack of better words, with the fiber optics and building with, you know, businesses, local businesses, how it would really improve, you know, the rural area. And he said, wow, okay. I said, well, I have a lot of ideas. Some of them are really harebrained, some of them hold some clout. And he said, well, I see that, so.
We'll see.
Yeah, I gotta go. He
Well,
said.
gotta go.
But he said he would be calling back, and, you know, he really wanted to talk more about the Appalachia, which he's in the governor's office. Of course, he says that.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting. Having Dan talk about that, how we can utilize that without having broadband. And just setting that where they can work offline. It's like two different sides to it. So.
Phil's got a great plan. A lot of stuff happened in the summer, actually, that was planned pre-coronavirus, that really fits nicely into some of our needs. Yep. Want to hit a few highlights while we're on?
So we were upgrading our network before all this occurred because the capacity of this network is starting to see strains, 1-1-1, 8-12, and plus purchasing the land, and digital track system down on the field. So part of our network project was to Wi-Fi the outdoors. So there will be Wi-Fi on every side of the building facing outward. There's the option of, if this were to look different or similar in fall, you could drive up on your days off, connect, and those outside Wi-Fi, you can be at the furthest part of the parking lot and still receive signal. So your Chromebook can sync up, submit the homework that you need to submit, and grab the new homework. And that could be as simple as Google Doc, a slideshow, could be a video. And these are really high-speed Wi-Fi connections we're putting in. Then we, at the admin meeting, we were talking, Mr. Rich was talking about putting repeaters up for his radios, and so that's a solution as well that we can look at if the private entities aren't going to put up towers or, something like that link in town, broadband to Wi-Fi. That might be something we can look at doing, or putting in spots like maybe try to find a location in Summerfield, Batesville, in different spots in our communities where they don't have to come all the way into our parking lot, then we have a spot for them within a reasonable distance if it does look like. who knows, so hard to plan for that. And then there's a House bill and a Senate bill, and there's one with the schools, health and libraries broadband coalition. They have a proposal in right now that's $5.25 billion to the FCC in the E-rate program that will allow for schools and libraries to purchase hardware, install that hardware, and pay the ongoing costs of that for families. But again, sometimes it's just not even an option for them. So I was on some of those buses there towards the end. I've lived in this county my whole life, and I saw parts of this county I've never seen. And there's no cell phone signal. And sometimes you're at the bottom of the bridge, you're not even going to see that satellite. You're not even going to have that view up in the sky to get the satellite broadband. So sometimes there's just zero. It could be economical as well. So there are some. We had 15% that said they didn't have a good internet connection. So if we can capture 10 of those, get even smaller. Like Dan said, we're set. We're ready for whatever comes in.
How about in that, I mean, what are you looking at as far as speed?
Here?
Yeah.
Right now we're at 200, so we're doubling that to 400. But it's not so much that. That's going to be nice to increase that, especially during state testing. It's these access points that hang on the walls. Those can handle about 50 clients at a time, which doesn't seem, it seems like, well, we have small classes, but every kid has a phone and watch, they have Chromebooks, 20 connecting. The new ones will connect 1,000 devices per wall. And they have directional antennas. These ones just put out like a radio signal. These ones have, it's called beamforming through line. So inside, it has intelligence and it starts to target. You got a phone, you got a phone, you got a phone, you got a phone, you got a phone. And it knows where you are and sends the signal straight to you. Send straight to you, not just pulls it out into a big bubble. It looks, and as you move around, it will follow you. So it's going to give us the capacity and longevity we need because it just keeps increasing on us.
Well, I can see kids that are working on a tablet.
Playground?
Yeah, and that's a safety issue as well. Since we don't have cell phone signal, a lot of teachers have Wi-Fi calling enabled. If there's an issue outside, whether it's a bus or a playground issue, they don't have to run back in to grab a phone. They can get the phone. And so it's safety.
We're going to carry Philip around campus next year in the Pope-mobile. Plexiglass all around. So we got to protect you. He didn't know that, I just told him. And Brad. Awesome,
Well, there
great
was an
plan.
upcoming technology too, and I can't remember the details of it.
VR,
The,
AI.
was it 5? Shoot.
5G.
Oh, the one with the 5G cell phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi access, the wireless access points for purchasing, they're working on a module that will plug into the back of them, that your phone will see that as a cell phone tower. You don't have to enable Wi-Fi calling. It just says, hey, they're just surprisingly close to a Verizon tower right now, because it just mimics that inside that access point.
That's like a mini cell.
Yeah.
Ah, Jesus.
So that's B5G.
Yeah. Yeah. We're
Crazy fast.
The devices we're buying would be capable of that with that technology.
There's not a lot of phones out right now that are 5G. Those are rolling out. There's a couple of, but you'll see it next year.
amazing. What's going on?
Thanks, Philip.
Pretty amazing.
Anything else?
No, we have a few items in executive session. We'll take
All right, I'll accept the motion to enter into executive session to consider matters required of confidential by federal law, regulations, or state statutes. McElroy, second. Carpenter.
McElroy?
Yes.
Carpenter?
Yes.
Archer?
Yeah.
Stotsberry?
Yep.
McKee?
Yes. 8:59.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, my leg hurts sometimes.
All my teachers.
And I didn't even get to the stop times, because I ran out of time.
When this goes the way I think it is, that's where we're headed.
Did you do this?
That's 5G.